Look for the silver lining whenever clouds appear in the blue. Remember.
Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with New York City Jazz Pianist and Vocalist on the 2021 CD Live from Lockdown Champian Fulton. We talked to her on September 9, 2021, as she was preparing to go to Sweden for a tour. We talked to her about this new live album in depth, about the COVID world, the current state of the jazz community, and so much more. After her captivating Sunday evening webcast took audiences by storm throughout the COVID-19 lockdown, she decided to offer a permanent recording of her series done with her steadfast collaborator and father, Stephen Fulton, who is on the flugelhorn and trumpet. It's a great story and conversation. Dig it.
Hi, Champion.
Hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm good. What's going on?
Not much. Just getting packed and getting ready, hopefully, for Sweden tomorrow.
Oh, man. I'm so happy to hear that people are traveling. It's refreshing after all this time.
It certainly is, but it's always like something new. So they just announced new restrictions on Monday for Sweden.
Oh, no.
So it's a little bit iffy.
Yeah.
But we're gonna try, because this is actually a tour that has been rescheduled 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Because of COVID and everything. So we really want it to happen this time.
Yeah. And I always hear Sweden's a wonderful place, just all around.
Oh yeah, I totally love Scandinavia. Like Sweden, Denmark, they're my favorite. And it's a good time of year because it's kind of cool, but not cold. It's not too bitter yet.
Yeah. That's always a good thing for sure. Well, hey, thank you for reaching out as you always do. It's always a pleasure. You're such a vibrant light on the jazz scene. You've done so much during this lockdown. It's so great to see an album commemorating all this work you've done over this pandemic.
Oh, thank you, Joe. That means a lot. Thank you.
You bet. So I guess first and foremost, Live from Lockdown, if anybody out there that's listening to this doesn't realize it, and I'm coming from first person, I can surely attest to the fact that you have been probably one of the most busy jazz musicians out there, really continually honing your craft and putting out music on a regular basis. So this album has to be kind of a nice commemoration of that time that has, had its darkness, but I think there's been some silver linings to all of this. So how do you feel now that this album's come to fruition?
I'm so happy. For one thing, I always wanted to make a duo album with my father anyway, for many years. This has been something I've wanted. My father being Stephen Fulton, who is on here playing trumpet and flugelhorn. And we always sort of just put that project a little bit on the back burner for various reasons. And then during 2020, we started doing a show, and it just seemed like a perfect fit. Like, this is finally the time we're going to make our duo record. And I was so happy about that. And the show, as you said, there was a lot of darkness in 2020 and 2021 as well, continuing. But having my live streaming show on Sundays called Live from Lockdown meant so much to me, because it really gave me something to look forward to during the week. And I got to know so many people through email, and direct messages. And it was just really nice, because it gave me a way to stay social with fellow jazz fans and my audience.
So, yeah, I guess that's the bigger question here is, what were some of the most surprising responses you got? Because, once you enter that realm of putting this out to the whole world, you have no idea what can happen. What were some of the more surprising pieces of feedback you got?
Well, at first, when we did the first show, I had no idea if anyone would watch, if anyone would like it, what the response would be. And then, we did a couple, and suddenly it looked like, oh, wow, like these people are watching every week. They seem to want me to keep doing it. So, and then it's going to become a thing we're going to do every week. And that all just happened so naturally. As we were going through it, I thought, oh, well, we should start to do themes, because I was looking for a way to stay creatively, interested in jazz and keep learning, and instead of, just kind of being, down at home all the time and not doing anything. So I said, okay, let's do some themes. Like, I want to learn more about Harry James. So I spent a couple weeks reading about Harry James and learning tunes associated with Harry James, and then we would do, you know, a couple shows talking about that. And I at first thought people might be bored or at least not interested. And instead, I had, you know, a massive response of people sending me messages. Oh, I checked out this. Have you heard this solo? I bought this record. There's a new book. We did a Peggy Lee show. Oh, there's a new Peggy Lee book. Can I send you a copy? I'm reading it. Let's read it together. You know, it was really amazing to me, how many people were so interested in jazz and interested in what I had to say about, you know, these historic records and things like that, and interested in listening to them with me.
You know, the one thing about this lockdown quarantine part of our life that's been going on for quite a while now is that it was really a moment for all of us to have Mother Nature say, all right, we're stopping this. All of the activity, everything that you were doing, and you're going to have to probably be self-reflective in a way that is more intense. Not that, you know, most people haven't in some way been self-reflective. But my question to you is this. What did you learn about yourself over this time that you did not realize before this happened?
That's a heavy question. I would say I have always felt very strongly about being a jazz musician, and that I felt like I wanted to be a part of this legacy, and I wanted to travel, and I wanted to be really committed. But I think, honestly, until this past year, those were sort of like, that's how I felt, but I didn't really have a lot of adversity against me regarding that. And during the pandemic and during the lockdown, it started out with, first of all, like, being a jazz musician is quote unquote non-essential, and then not being able to go to work and having everything put on hold. I really felt like that my dedication to the craft and to music and to what I'm doing just became even deeper. And I discovered, how far I was really willing to go, sort of psychologically maybe, and emotionally to keep it happening.
So I guess the follow-up to that is that, what you did kind of exemplified one aspect of what the jazz community did, which is this technological adaptability, this set of producing skills, this set of things that musicians typically didn't have to really do on their own, but was kind of, put into this position. So my question to you, not only from that perspective, but just even overall with, all of these things that go into sales, the audience viability of appreciating jazz, all of those things, what do you see from your perspective how the jazz community is going to emerge stronger and more vibrant once things kind of return in earnest?
The people that kept going, and not only online, we had a lot of people here in New York, musicians who kept playing outside, whether it was on the street or outdoor venues. There were really creative ways to keep music going. There was a series of concerts in Central Park that I think were, loosely organized, but really it was kind of like, we're going to meet by this tree and we're going to play some concerts. And I think all of that is going to help revitalize the scene when the scene comes back, as it is slowly coming back now. And I think regarding listeners, I was just so pleased to meet so many people online who were not quote-unquote jazz fans, who didn't think of themselves that way, who didn't listen to jazz at home, and somehow, like, through my posts and through my show, I just got back from Kentucky. I was in Louisville over the weekend, and such a nice lady came, and, she was like, oh, I started listening to Harry James, and I started listening to Count Basie and Jimmy Rushing, and, she had never really listened to that kind of music before, and here she is loving it, going, oh, I want to go to this concert, and we're going to travel to this festival. And I think we became a little bit more vocal advocates for our music, and I think that's what the music needs.
You're getting ready to go to Sweden, and, I know that there's been some live shows and things have opened up. I remember a month and a half ago, I was so ecstatic to talk to musicians. Not that I'm not now, but the part of me that was ecstatic was like, I was seeing in Kansas City things were opening. I was right next to musicians again, listening to music, and it was so great. And then all of a sudden, the Titanic started singing the iceberg again, and I was like, uh-oh, here we go into this gray, ambiguous zone again. But you're talking about going to Sweden. Things are still going to exist and happen in a life capacity in a safer way. So my question to you is that after this long absence away from live music, what do you think is going to be the residual that both musician and the audience is going to get from this time away, an appreciation or any other revelations that you think might be happening?
I think a lot of people realized how important, not that they didn't know it before, but a lot of us realized how important live music is on a regular basis. I think we took a lot of it for granted, especially I think living like in a city like New York and Kansas City where there's usually so many options and you can see live music all the time as much as you want. And then all of a sudden for that to be gone, and even now for it to be like limited, I think people realize how important it is, and I think that's good, and that'll be good going forward. I definitely know what you mean. Like it seemed earlier this summer, it was like everything's opening, everything's going to be great, like possibilities are limitless, and then some more restrictions start coming in, and things look more tenuous. But I say full steam ahead.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's probably the bigger metaphor here is that at the end of the day, like I was even seeing you were going to the Oklahoma game and how excited you were, and seeing the people in the stands, and I think the thing that we probably need to realize that maybe we slept a bit on, not intentionally, but just because we're humans, is that this celebration or this cognizance of the vitality that the collective can have to overcome things. Maybe that's a part of it, which jazz has always kind of been on the forefront of those kinds of notions. Do you see kind of a resonance between those two ideas?
I totally agree. Yeah, I think it's very important. I was very excited to go to the spring OU game. Yes, I was. But because it was fun, because it felt like it was, just like going to a concert, it was a group of people coming together who had an interest they shared, and they were happy to be there together. And it was, even if you didn't know everyone, automatically like sort of already friends, because here we have this shared interest. And I think it's so important, like community and being around people is so important. And I just feel like these days just to be able to smile at someone, and, I always loved to talk to people anyway, but I think even now it's more important to talk to the people you see at the cash registers, or, that you have small interactions with, just to let them know, like, we're humans, we're together, we're alive. It's okay, to feel a little happy, really.
I think that's the bigger thing out of this that I've noticed, is that there's this level of community. Like, I think, there's just things that I don't think we realized about what it's like to have that human connection in person, which is indispensable. And now I think we understand that on a more deeper level. As we move forward here, I think part of this, I talked to a musician early on that kind of compared, and this was back in like April, and it was like when everybody was like, oh no, this is going to be a long time, because in the beginning it seemed like, okay, it's going to be a week, then 2, then maybe 3, and then maybe a month. But I think when it settled in, there was a musician that kind of talked to me about how they thought this was like a cancer diagnosis, and how we were all going to go through it on the planet, and how we were going to go through, recovery, and we were going to go through all of these things. And I think there's a part of that is true of us going through a trauma that we're coming out of. And I think a lot of people that come out of it have this list of things that they want to do, maybe realizing there's, you just don't know when you're going to be able to do certain things. Do you have that as a musician, things that you definitely want to get out and do, not only now, but as things kind of more and more open and earnest?
Well, yes. I mean, the thing that I kept thinking all through the lockdowns was that I just missed my life. I really was pretty happy with the way things were going, like say in 2019, early 2020. I love being on the road. I love playing shows. I love making records and meeting people and talking to people. And my list is like, I just want to do that again and do it more, and I've been really lucky this summer to sort of hit the ground running a little bit. I've been to Europe 3 times since July, or 3 or 4 times. We played 3 nights at Birdland when they reopened in August, and just a lot of really wonderful experiences. And every time I have one of those experiences, I sort of say to myself, okay, like, you're having it right now. You might not have it again. Enjoy it,
Yeah.
Which, it sounds dark, but I don't mean it to be dark. I just mean it to be like that I'm really trying to be in the moment. And my list of things I would like to do is definitely just get back to what I was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. You realize this, I know, as an artist, that anytime someone makes a financial commitment to buy an album, there's a myriad of choices, and I know there's a high level of appreciation. So when Live from Lockdown is purchased or downloaded from listener, what do you ultimately hope they get from this experience, from this artistic product you put out with your father?
Well, I would say it's similar to how I feel about all my projects, but maybe even more so with this one. I just want the listener to get a good feeling, just like I was saying about smiling and saying a few nice words to a stranger or someone you encounter on the street or at the grocery store. I want that record to be like that for the listener. Put a smile on their face, a little warmth, a little happiness, just anything to lighten the burden of our current modern day life. That's really what I hope they can take away from this.
Beautiful. Hey, Champion, thank you again for reaching out. Thanks for the music. I really dig it. Looking forward to profiling it on the show.
Thank you so much, Joe. It's always nice to talk to you. You're such a good interviewer.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and singers in Oklahoma, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Champion for continually being a part of Neon Jazz and for all that tasty music and time. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.